Right, okay, well let's start with that first one. So the world is probably going to come out, we're going to come out of this quite a different place to how we went in, and I imagine teaching is going to be similar in that regard. But really thinking about the ways that what we've learned from this that we can take forward to next September, hopefully, assuming we're all back by next September. Before we do that, can I just quickly get you to do a very, very quick poll just to get an idea of what platforms we're on, just so we can make sure that the conversation is around the right sort of topics. I mean, I'm assuming that most people are on Classroom or Teams, but I just want to make sure that is the case. Fab, thank you. I'll just give you a second there. There are more options if you scroll. Okay, I'll leave that just a little bit longer, but it's looking like most people, the majority are on Teams, quite a lot on Classroom, quite a lot making use of Seneca, probably I imagine in conjunction with other things, but that's really helpful because I know that that Charlie's going to talk about Teams particularly, so that's helpful. And a great deal of people expecting to use more of those platforms in the future. So again, it looks like we have taken something from this forward to next year. Obviously, technology increases in the classroom every year, and there would have been some people using it more next year anyway, but I think that this has forced people to take up perhaps more of the technology. I'm just going to end that poll and share it with you so you can see the results. So over half using Teams, which I imagine is kind of what you expect. Google Classroom is at 25%. When I did a similar poll on the EdXL GCE EdXL economics group, there were more on Classroom, so I imagine it does vary a little bit. I did the poll through Zoom, so on the setting, if you go onto settings, you can, that's answering Caroline, if you go on settings, before you start a meeting, you have to make the poll before the meeting, which is a bit of a pain if you can't, it's a bit harder to use in the classroom. I don't know if that's a premium feature, no idea, but it's worth giving that a go. And then 77% of people expecting to use more of those platforms next year. Fab. Okay, so as if that works like magic, to talk more about Microsoft Teams, Charlie.
Hi everybody. So yeah, I'll try and whiz through sort of in about 3 or 4 minutes what my sort of experience has been of Teams in the last few weeks. We started at our school 2 weeks before we broke up to get ready, basically. So we were teaching on Teams because we're a boarding school, lots of people from China, lots of people from Russia. So they'd all gone home and we were having to teach before we broke up. To give us that sort of head start, and actually it's been mixed. I'll be completely honest, it's been mixed. I love it. I like tech and I like being able to teach online, but there are pros and cons. So I thought what I'd do is run through the pros and cons, what I've come across, then we can discuss it, because as you see, there's quite a few people have been using it. So to start with the positives, I've really enjoyed the video call function. The video call function's been brilliant. I know even the teachers' unions were a bit worried about that for safeguarding issues and things. Our school went straight into it, and the deputy head pastoral seemed pretty fine with it, and we were encouraged to do it. So we've used the video call function. We have to record lessons for that reason, and so everything's recorded and kept on the school server. I really like the lever arch file function, effectively, is what I call it for kids, but it's called the class notebook. I teach heavily using worksheets that I make, and so it minimizes writing in lessons because we have lots of English as second language speakers, and so I've been able to utilize the class notebook by putting all of my worksheets into the content library. And then from the content library, you can distribute at the start of each lesson to each pupil. You click on which worksheet, click distribute to all, and they all suddenly receive it. They can then fill it in as you're teaching them online. So I really like that function of it. because it suits the way I teach. The collaboration board is brilliant. It's, again, positives and negatives. I really like it because you can get them. I normally in a classroom will get them coming up to the front, get them drawing on the whiteboard, all the diagrams, and actually they've been able to use the collab board for that exact purpose. And so today was a great example. We're doing tariffs today, and which is quite complicated to do over the internet, but it went well. I got one guy with a magic pen on his touchscreen laptop. He was drawing on the collab board. The others were feeding back to him, saying what lines he needed to add on, where he needed to change some way that he'd done something wrong on the diagram, and it worked. And they could all talk to each other and like they were in a classroom and do it on the collab board. So that's been good. With the year 13s on the collab board, that's been an interesting one because I don't know what other people have done for year 13s, but we're doing like a bridging between university and A-level or IB. And so what I've done there is we're going to enter the Royal Economic Society essay competition. And so we've been researching every single question on the collab board. We come back to it, we whack on anything we've found, so any research they've done, any thesis they've read from university, things like that. They're sticking them on the collab board, so they can all then put notes on there and compare notes before they go forward to put their essay plans to me before they start writing their essays. So it's a really handy function, that. Content library, I've already mentioned that I've got all of my files now, all of my worksheets I've put into two-sided PDFs into the content library. Now that's something I'll definitely take forward next year, because suddenly all of the overseas guys now don't need to take their files home. It's all there for them, saved in like a PDF format that they can edit online, and I can see whether they've edited it. I can mark it on screen, and it's just made it that something that has been a revelation to me, having not used Teams ever before. Really like that function. The assignment page is something I'll definitely use as well. I inherited a department that was quite sort of behind the times, I'd probably call it. They were handing in IBIAs in paper format, handwritten, and I was then having to mark them handwritten and then scan them in to submit them to the IB. Now, doing it electronically, we've had to do it electronically this time, and I've only been HOD for this year, and inherited it, as I say. And so that's one change I'm going to make, is that everything's going to be done through Teams. They can submit via the assignment function. You can mark it on screen. They get feedback immediately. They don't have to wait till their next lesson to come to see and receive their work back. So really like that. The assignment page is up there. Negatives though, because I do the worksheet format, when I'm trying to copy across my worksheets onto Teams, you can't copy pictures. And so you have to do each individual picture, which has been really annoying because I've got a lot of pictures on my worksheets just to make them more interesting and fun. And so you can't just go Control A, Control V, C, Control V, and paste across a worksheet into Teams, because it leaves all the pictures behind. So you then have to go and right click and copy and paste and do each individual picture, which is slow and annoying. So they need to get that in. I've Googled that and found forums that try and help, but that's one of the things that people have fed back to Microsoft that they need to add as a function. There's a whiteboard glitch, which it can be annoying. When we first started, just before we broke up, I think the whole of Europe took Teams by surprise, and suddenly everyone was trying to teach online, and it was very slow. There were kids not being able to see the whiteboard as it was being updated, and if you were drawing something on it, they didn't see it. So that was a bit of a problem, but I think that's been a lot better this term. And then I suppose to take it more to now the teaching side of things online. So the kids tire quite easily, quite surprisingly actually, as you'd think, with not having sport, not having all the extra activities, the music lessons and things that you'd think would wear them out at school. Actually, by the end of the day, they're pretty knackered. And if you've got them period 7, period 8, I've found they don't want to be looking at a screen anymore. So we've had to sort of adapt. I get 4 lessons with each class a week, 45-minute lessons, and so I'm doing 2 webinars effectively where I'll sit and talk and we'll discuss things. and fill in the worksheets, but then I'll give them one where they're doing their own worksheet where they're not looking at a screen. Hopefully they'll be filling in an A4 piece of paper based on questions, and then they'll take a photo of it and submit it to me on the assignments tab. And then we do a TED talk or something like that, and then we'll just discuss it just to make it a bit more informal and a bit more, so pushing them a little bit harder on evaluation and analysis of what's going on. So just trying to take it away from the normal lesson format for them. Yeah, so that's about it really. I found a website which I thought was brilliant. Someone posted it on the IB, which is called Nearpod, and I'm not sure if anyone's heard of Nearpod. It'd be interesting to hear your views on that, because that's something I'm definitely going to take forward. I use it with Teams, and so I've linked it through. And so one of my lessons a week, it's a bit like PowerPoint, and so you can go on there and you can flick through slides and talk to them about the slides, fill it with stats, but in between slides put little quizzes in, put videos in, and that's been really helpful as well. So that's something I'm going to take forward as well, because it links into Teams nicely. It's actually got a share to Teams function for Nearpod, so that's been good as well. But yeah, that's me. Hopefully I haven't waffled too much, and be interested to hear everyone else's thoughts.
Not at all. Manisha, was your hand in the air, or were you kind of stretching? No, okay, that's fine. I did have a couple of questions. So, in terms of the collaboration board, do you reckon you will carry on using that next year for potentially homework or whatever?
Yeah, the collab board I've been really pleased with, because they can just, everyone can access it, everyone can build into it, and you can see it in real time, so it's easy to keep an eye on them. And again, I think everybody feels it's difficult getting files in constantly, because if you want their file in, but they need their file to be doing their prep or their homework or whatever. And so actually, by being able to mark things on screen and see it real time that they're doing their work, that's definitely something I've really enjoyed about Teams and will take forward.
Does anyone else have anything regarding perhaps prep or homework that they will carry on using next year? Obviously, it's quite different. Using virtual learning is more like extended homework in lots of cases. Has anyone kind of got anything from this that they would use for, that they think would make their homework or home learning or revision even better over the next, over the next academic year?
I think for revision, you can use the webinar function so nicely for revision as well. I'm definitely going to do that in holiday time, just once a week, even just say, right, I'm going to be online at 6 o'clock in the evening on Wednesday, say, and if you want to come along, I'm going to be talking about protectionism, or I'm going to be talking about monopolies, and we can revise, and just to sort of get them coming back to revise with you in the holidays, because sometimes they can be a little bit lax, and it will just keep them doing economics instead of geography.
So, within your notebook as well, are you using OneNote, or have you added the class notebook function? Because obviously OneNote is the app that's general, it's not education specific, and then there is the augmented add-on through Teams that's for class notebook. Are you using the class notebook, or are you just using OneNote?
Yeah, I use class notebook. So I can share my screen with you and show just very quickly if you want me to. I've got it loaded. Should I do that?
Yeah, while you're having a go at that, just a quick question from Peter. Is anyone using Zoom as well as Teams for meetings? Is there anyone else that's doing that? I think it tends to be more independent schools that have been using Zoom particularly. So we do have some people that are using Zoom as well. Obviously, the functionality on Zoom is that you can see lots of people at once, whereas you can't do that on Teams just yet. I'll hand back over to you, Charlie.
Yeah, so yeah, I've set up a little thing, because obviously data protection Act didn't want to put the kids' names on there, but so I've made a little class notebook, and then just added my wife in there. So here you'd have a list of all of your pupils, and so it's just my wife, and then when you click on the pupil, it pulls out what notes they've made. You've got class notes, handouts, homework, quizzes. So if I go to my content library, which is where I keep my notes, so I've put a few of them in here just for this demo. So I did something on Trumponomics, and so then you can pull it across and say there was something for them to have a look at, and then a question with a suggested structure, and then you can just distribute that. So that's been a really good function. Or you can just, if sometimes the distribution doesn't work, and I just get them to go right click copy, and then they just go take it down and paste it in there, because you can't edit it in this bit. It's just stops them editing your bits of work, so they can't edit it until it's saved in there. So that's been a really good thing. So this basically replaces the LeverArch file for those that haven't used Teams. Each people has their own, but their class notes here, and it'll save them there. Any handouts, homework, and quizzes, things like that, are just there. Yeah, I've been really like that sort of LeverArch file online style. Yeah.
Fab. So, I mean, we've spoken really about how that helps, about how we can take it forward into homework. Has anyone got any thoughts on how it will affect class time, and how, if at all, class time might be shaped differently from things that we've learned over the last month or so?
Charlie, can I ask about how he uses it for the homework? Because we've been using Class Notebook, and I'm trying to get our students at the moment to submit work, but they're handwriting their work. And then they're submitting photographs, and so I'm finding that a pain to kind of then copy and paste that into the notebook. So it's a really good, useful tool, but how are you managing that? So if they're handwriting, or are yours handwriting stuff?
So all homework I've done as an assignment. So in the assignments tab, so if I go back to where are we, Teams, and just share my screen again. So on the assignments tab here, you click on that, and every time I set a homework, I just start an assignment, and they then upload it themselves straight onto there. You can upload JPEGs or PDFs or Word documents, and then you can mark it on screen. So I've just made this one up. So that was assigned to my wife earlier. There she is, and it says not turned in yet. So she hasn't even looked at it. If it says not turned in yet, I know she hasn't even looked at it. It says seen if they've looked at it as an assignment. And then when you click on there, when they have uploaded it, here would be, let's say it's a Word document, and I've got a Surface Pro, which means it's touchscreen, and I can mark it on screen. But one of the negatives is that you can't mark it on screen within Teams. You have to take it out to what's called SharePoint, for those that know what it is. And you can mark it in SharePoint because we have Office 365 online. And then you can mark it on screen there, and it just then uploads it back in when you click save. It's actually really easy to do. It sounds really complicated. Like there's a little button here for it. And then mark it on screen, click save, and it goes back onto Teams automatically. I don't have to do anything special.
So your assignments tab is part of Teams, not part of the Class Notebook?
Yes, it's part of Teams. So it's at the top there. So it's next to the Class Notebook. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's part of our problem at the moment, is that from a safeguarding perspective, they haven't opened up Teams to our students. They've opened up Teams to staff, and then Class Notebook is the only thing that's available.
There are a couple of other options there as well. I mean, you can upload it. Lots of people mentioned that you can upload it through Office Lens or just on an iPhone. But another alternative, through OneNote, if you are using Class Notebooks on OneNote, if students have the OneNote app on their phone, if they open the page in their OneNote, they can take the picture directly through their phones onto the page, and then at least on the page there will be a picture of the work, and therefore you won't have to kind of copy and paste it yourself if it's that you wanted to keep it all in one place.
Okay.
I think we'll probably move on perhaps to the next question, unless anyone has any other thoughts on how what they've learned in the last kind of month or so is going to affect their practice going forwards. No? Fab. Okay.